we're going to kick things off for this particular talk with a panel. And guys, do you want to introduce yourself? Where are you from? What do you do?
Go for Bruce. Okay, I'll start. I'm Bruce Slater. I'm 28. I started a company called Radical Forge. And I was a student back in I graduated in 2013, and ever since then I've kind of done a lot of things throughout games history and games in general. And that's why I'm here for this panel, I think.
I think we're about the same way, yeah. So I used to, my name's John. I run a game studio called Flix Interactive, based just outside of the Birmingham area, so not too far away. And I think, like Bruce said, we both had kind of a passion to see great students kind of get into the industry, into great roles, really. And so the team that we've got has predominantly been built up by awesome people just like yourselves who give us the grace to come and work with us. So we work on lots of different projects now, from with the team over at Rare on Sea of Thieves. We predominantly work with Microsoft at this stage on a lot of outsourcing, but also do our own IP too. So I work with the spreadsheets these days.
Yeah, and I'm Tom Whittemore. I'm lead designer at Flix Interactive, and yeah, I came to Staffordshire Uni now, graduated in 2012, and then was here, some of you might remember here probably, as a lecturer for 4 years, and now been at Flix for 3 years almost. Oh. So yeah, it's been going well.
Awesome. So, obviously we've just had a talk how to get in the games industry. So, when you're looking at hiring graduates, how cheap can you get them for? Like,
it's not about cheap, man.
The secret is
yeah.
So how would you if someone comes for a job and they say, how would you expect students to pitch themselves? What would you be looking for?
It's a balance, isn't it? Yeah. And there's a reason why I say that is because it depends on what you're looking to do. So depending on what you actually want to do within the industry, it's like if you look at a lot of the team that we initially started with, we were totally unfunded. We didn't have any way forwards. And the secret to the whole thing is that I left university thinking they want to give me a job. And that's why I kind of turned around and thought, okay, I need to refine the work that I do. I'm sure most of you that I've spoken to in the past have kind of had that feeling, that imposter syndrome feeling. And you realise that you can come out at the end with something really valuable, and that's really important. It's the message I've always kind of said to people: you are worth something, so don't turn around and give your time for nothing. But that doesn't always mean funds. I'm not saying you should work for free, but the flip side to it is really actively think about any time you engage in any project, whatever it may be, whether it's for yourself and you're paying that forward because you want to start your own project, your own team, or if you're going to turn around and go into a role, think of why you might be taking the wage that you are versus actually turning around and getting something back for it. Be measured about that and say to yourself, is it worth it? Because either which way, you need to turn around and remember you have value.
Yeah, so I'd reiterate almost exactly the same thing. Except at Radforge, it's very, the kind of people that we take in particular are really, they have to do something else with their life. It's not just about games. Like if you're making video games, awesome, but if you don't have something else that you do, like if you're not into dance, or you don't, like our guys skate, kayak, dance, some guys climb, some people walk up hills for fun, never understood that, but they do it. But like, you've got to have something else that sets you apart, because it doesn't matter, for us as a studio, it's not about how good you are, it's about the fact that you understand that your time is valuable and that you need to relax, and you'll do better work if you relax and take time out.
Cool. Tom, what do you look for?
Well, it kind of depends on, we look for somebody quite flexible at Flix. Being a small indie team, it's kind of, you need to know what you want to do, but also be flexible around that. So make sure, if you want to be a level designer, that you're doing the most in level design, but also that, honestly, design working in an early access game or on live games, you're not going to be doing high concept design all the time. So showing flexibility and understanding in other areas is always a key bonus as well, so that you have your focus, but to be honest, you can do anything and have a good theory and understanding of most things, and kind of being able to show that as well is always helpful.
So you've looked at someone's ArtStation portfolio. You think they seem pretty good. You get them into an interview. What's the common thing you see that goes really right, You mentioned like external stuff, but what goes really wrong? What do you see often that puts you off a student? And when initially perhaps you were attracted to them? Bad beard?
No, not like that part of it. But we've had people come and apply for jobs, and they've been amazing, and then they walk in and they just haven't had a shower that day, and you're like, why not? It's not hard. It's like it's not a hard thing to do. So that's like a massive it's hard to fit in here because we're all so tightly compact in a room. And if you're there like 6-7 hours a day, it's just not something anyone wants. For us as well, when we have interviews with people, we don't do conventional interviews because we find them useless. We do like
An interview on a kayak?
No, we take people to do something. So like we'll do a studio day where we'll go and do something, and we'll get to know the actual person, because knowing the person's more important than, because if they can do the job, they can do the job, right? It's whether or not they're a fit for the team, and if the team like them, it's their choice, not mine. If I find someone I really want, I can be like, I really like this person, and they'll be like, nope, they've got the wrong hair color, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's not that small, but like that's kind of how we operate. We operate in a very different way to most studios, though. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because it's like from the team perspective, from us, like from a growth point of view, for any of you that might be interested in turning around doing your own projects or your own studio or kind of setting up independently, I think the key thing is also understanding that you always need to hire people that are either better than you or work with people that have got great skill sets, and that's actually a mentality that I think we need to breed more so in the games industry, that you should be respectful of each other, full stop. Yeah. And by that I mean that I think that if, Tom's a far better designer than I can ever be, that's why he's lead designer at Flix, but I hope I humbly can add value myself. I do a lot of the biz dev stuff these days, and also production, but the thing I would say is making sure that you always think about, if you're going to ally yourself to somebody, it's another way of putting it, if from your perspective you're going to work with someone, sometimes your best friend is the worst person to work with, especially if they're just like you, Think about actually going for someone who's not like you, who can do the things you can't do. And so whenever we're looking at it at Flix, as we grow, we're almost about 40-ish people now. Whenever we're looking for new people, we're trying to think about actually how they can help augment the team and make other people's lives easier, really, and fill the gaps, because like Tom said, otherwise we do about 50 different things, which is the great thing about indie teams. You get to do everything, but the worst thing about indie teams is you have to do everything. So it's like, balancing it out is important. Okay,
so students, should they be looking to go to small teams, big teams? Does it matter? Should they be even thinking about that, or would they not? I think they should decide what they want to do with their life. I think it's a case of like, if you want to go and your dream is like, I want to go work at EA, I want to make the next Need for Speed game, which is Ace, by the way. He's great. But if you want to make the next one, you should go do that, and you should focus your time and energy into doing that. But if you want to go to a smaller team where you do a little bit of everything, and you try something out, and you're not stuck doing 20,000 renders of cars every year, like if that's your passion, your drive, do that. And if it's not your passion, your drive, and you want to go down a smaller route or start something smaller, do that. But the hard thing about being a student and deciding what to do is you kind of want to do both. Because I remember when I was a student, I was like, yeah, I really want to go work at Epic. That was always my dream. And then I left uni and was like, no, I want to start my own thing. But it took about a year of my life of just like trying to work out what I was going to do, like targeting both options, doing a portfolio for like AAA studios and doing a portfolio like learning to code for Rad Forge. It was interesting. So that's what I'd say.
Split it out, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd kind of just reiterate that in terms of like really think about what you do want to do, because it's like if you only care about making the best trees in the world, then you want a job where that is your job. And in the larger studios, you're probably going to have, that sort of focus, because they want somebody who's going to make the best trees in the world, and you're going to be the tree person. Whereas if you're working for an indie team, you're going to be working on lots of different things, which if you're fine with that, then that's perfect. But if you don't care about certain elements, then it's, you've got to take that into account. So for example, over the past couple of weeks, we've been working on AI level design, balancing, crafting,
What haven't
and
you been working
weapons.
on, Tom?
all in the space of 1 week and doing all
Yeah.
these different things. So it's kind of like figure out what you actually want to do and make sure that if you decided you want to do that thing, that you don't mind doing it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Because if you find out that 6 months in you don't want to make trees anymore, but you've become the tree guy, then you're not going to have a fun time. So it's kind of taking that time to explore and try different things and figure out what is actually my focus, and kind of finding that, because it'll only make your job more enjoyable. And for designers especially, you'll get better designs when you actually enjoy what you're doing, which is the most important thing.
Okay, so show of hands, how many students in here first year students? Do we have many first year students? Okay, first year students. Sometimes between first year and final year, confidence takes a plummet. What would be your advice for those people?
Oh, I can tell you about that. Yeah.
We've all got something to say on that one, haven't we?
Yeah. Whoa. So no matter what you're making creative things, whether it's filmmaking, music, it's games, it's like drawing a mural on a massive wall, right? No matter what you're doing, there'll be a point in time where you're like, this is the best thing ever, yeah. And then you look at it and go, nah, it's terrible. And your entire confidence will drop. And that happens throughout university. It's very natural for you to love what you're doing when you start, and then it drop off slightly and then goes back up towards the end. And the best way to describe it is, if it's the thing you really want to do and it's your passion, you'll get through it, because everybody that really loves to do what they do ignores this is the boring bit of what I need to do to get to where I want to be, because they care about the end goal. And the end goal happens with time, not straight away. It doesn't just happen in one flash. It takes like a long period of time. So when you finish your first year and you're going through to second and third year, and you're halfway through third year and you're about to do your, what's your final year project thing called?
Oh, the individual games project.
Yeah, when you're doing your individual games project and you're like, man, this is it. This is like I'm so close. This is like, you get to do a thing that you really want to do and you spec for whatever it is you want to do in industry. That's when you'll pick it back up. But all of the time that you spent beforehand being sad about making the things that you didn't want to make will mean that you've learned a load of stuff to make the thing. So it's all about passion and perseverance.
You see, I think as well with that, it's actually, you can synopsise a lot of it going into a role. It's really, really important. Even touching on what you said before, Dave, I think that like, with any of you that are looking to go into industry, get a job and have someone pay you for it, right? You've got to realise like two sides of the whole coin really. At the moment in time is you really do have intrinsic value. We're in a great position as an industry right now. No one in senior positions wants to tell you that. Right,
no, that's true.
For business reasons, but we're in a really good position. The industry's doing really well. As far as like games are concerned, it's like you can walk into a career. When we started, it's like that Bane meme. We were forged in the recession. Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't know how bad it was. There were no jobs, but there weren't. When I came out of uni, it's like all funding pots had stopped. Now, if you start up a company, you can probably get 10 grand, 5 grand. You have to work for it to get a grant to get you off the ground. But the flip side to that is that at the moment there are opportunities out there and you should know that. The other side to that is, and it ties into what you said about like the imposter syndrome thing, which is what a lot of people talk about, where your confidence can then be like shot and you can actually be far more valuable as a person than you think you are. Problem with that is that you want to make sure you understand that you're valuable, but you stay humble. And that is the key to success in this industry. Don't be afraid to turn around and be humble about the way you are, but be confident in your abilities, and that's key. Again, I think that's the kind of key to happiness, really, in what we do a lot of the time. So, yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Don't be a dick.
Basically,
don't be a dick.
Really simple. I'm pretty sure I've got a plaque on my desk that says something. Probably put there by Tom.
Just to hang it on there.
That's it.
I get an email every day at 10 a.m. Is that right?
From your art director.
Don't be a dick.
That's
I'm like,
it,
oh yeah.
I get words of wisdom from my producer. It was like yesterday. It was like engage brain before opening mouth. I was like, cheers, mate. Thank you. I remember that one. So yeah, it's great, isn't it?
So Tom, I mean, you taught those students, and now you're sort of looking at hiring them. You were a student. What did you have that confidence plummet?
Definitely, and I think especially being a designer as well, you're putting your creativity out there for other people with lots of these things, and your thinking is why people should find the thing fun. And often it's not, basically, or people think it's not. And it's learning how to kind of take that constructive feedback, but also take all the negative feedback and kind of actually thoroughly process that. And kind of learn from it, basically, in terms of which ones do you want to double down on, which ones you kind of need to learn how to be wrong is a good thing, because often, even with working with people who've been in the industry for like 20, 30 years, and they'll be wrong about things because sometimes you can't cover every single base. And then you'll make a thing and people will play it and you put it on the internet and people go on forums and scream at you. And then sometimes you have to learn to, okay, why are they screaming at me? And kind of take that kind of feedback, which can feel very negative because it's like, obviously you've put your baby out there, your little creative baby, your BB, and it's been like shot down, and okay, how do I take that? How do I build from it? Rather than like, I suppose, let it get to you.
Do you know what? Another way of putting that as well, if you think about like, everyone knows about the whole agile way of working, iteration. Iteration is because someone said it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't iterate and you chip it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so you've got to think in that mentality. You're in an industry, I've always said, like, if you don't want to stand up on stage naked and sing your favourite song, sometimes this industry can be compared to that. It's like, because you're putting 5 years of your life in a AAA game, you know, out in front of all these kids, and some 12-year-old just goes, shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I have now just been, that has been quantified by the person I'm selling it to. So you've got to think that that is the way it is, and if you can get over that and realise that you've got to be a bit thick-skinned, yeah? Love the people that you're working with, because the fact is, like, going back to, you know, Bruce's original point, you're pretty much living with them more than you would your family. That's what a job does, a career. You're going to be working with them, hopefully, for many years, you know, to create some amazing stuff, man. You're going to love, and hopefully other people are going to love, but that is the nature of our industry. You are selling your dreams to other people. So be prepared to turn around and understand someone's going to take a sledgehammer to it at times, and it will feel crap. You know, so.
There's a point as well where it happens so often you get used to it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just okay with it. People are like, I don't like this, 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 and this, and you're like, all right, cool.
It's like with the hobnobs of the workforce. Dip me again. It's like you'll never break. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's it.
Like working on Gang Beasts, I iterated the incinerator level. If any of you have seen that, I iterated that level 42 times. It was like, move the stairs to the left, move the stairs to the right. Move the other stairs 2 meters forward. Move the stairs 2 meters back. It was like that for like 3 years of my life, and it was
You just
crazy.
want someone now to raise their hand at the back and go, it's still shit.
Yeah. Please tell me.
Welcome to the games industry. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah, so it does happen.
I suppose it's also it's being confident in your designs as well, and making sure you've actually done the theory and the work to back them up, so that when people inevitably do shit on it, that you can be like, actually, no, this is what I was going for, and kind of, you know, not justify it. It's not about winning an argument, but sometimes people like to yell regardless, is one thing we've learned, especially working on a live game like Sea of Thieves. It's got a large player base. You're going to annoy somebody regardless of what you do, and it's learning how to, people are going to be angry, but if they're angry because of exactly what you intended to do, then that's actually fair as well. And then it's kind of taking that on board and being like, yes, give me your anger, feed on it, sort of thing instead.
I got a question. Have you ever made a game design decision on purpose to anger fans?
Don't say yes, Tom. Don't say we've got cameras in it.
That you knew would anger fans?
I have some lined up in Eden Star. Not purposely to anger people, but purposely that I want to evoke a certain thing, and that's going to
evoke a certain emotion, and that's going to affect that's going to alienate like 70% of the players at that period of time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally, I understand that. Yeah, that's a thing.
I've never done that, just for the record, just so anyone knows.
I mean,
never had the opportunity to. I've got more intelligent people that I work with than, you know, they make those good decisions these days. Well, I can blame it on them anyway. No, jokes aside, I think the thing is that we have like, I think you've always got to make the right decision for the player, whatever you end up turning around and doing. And that's actually quite difficult to take on in your own projects, because you might sit there and go, this scene looks great, but then your player, if you're presenting that portfolio piece as an artist, is a potential employer, and they go, what does it play like? And you're thinking, well, I'm an artist. It's like, well, actually, if they considered it, and you think that you're going to be asked questions that maybe at times you weren't even thinking when you were putting something together. So it's always good to kind of think in broad strokes when you end up turning around and presenting any part of your work, whether it's design, whether it's art, you know, production even.
So on that, like the theory that backs up stuff, how important is that?
Massively.
it's huge.
Absolutely.
I'd say it's the only thing that like you can't do the making bit without understanding why, why you can't make a multiplayer map, like a 3-lane multiplayer map, without understanding why 3 lanes work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just fundamentally, because you'd make a 4-laned one, balance would be off and it'd be terrible. Like it's understanding those rules and understanding where you can twist and break them as well, which is kind of important, because the twist and the breaking them is always the bit that the players love. It's not because they've seen that, like they've done the 3-lane rule thing, they've all played League of Legends or they've all played a Halo level or Call of Duty, because they all share those, right? But if you manage to make a level that's like that has the middle lane splits off into 2 lanes separately, for example, right? And that's the twist for that level, and players love that. That's like understanding the theory and why you did it, and then twisting it to break it is what makes it so important, and is the most interesting thing about design for me.
I wonder if you feel the same, mate, but a lot of the time when we've talked about stuff like theory, in anything that you end up putting in and doing, if it's based upon something that a team can get behind, it makes the whole project work.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
even when you end up turning around and pitching your game idea when you're doing like a team project to other people, has anyone kind of led a team here? From if you know what I mean, from a student perspective, as groups of people that have tried or even worked towards doing something like that, you will do eventually. You know, you'll have that kind of opportunity to do that, even if it's just I've got an idea for the artwork here. That's you leading it, even if you're not in that lead position. You're taking responsibility. Selling that to somebody else, for want of a better term, is part of the theory behind it. You have to base it on something that people can go, yeah, I can buy that. I can get behind that idea. You know, so it is extremely important that you also then make sure it's sound. If it's like, you know, because it's cool, it doesn't really turn around and have any basis in anything, and that's very much just subjective. So you have to have something people can actually go, yeah, logically I can see the reasons why you're doing that. It's important, very important. And we go through it quite a lot over at Flix. Make sure we get the theory right, prove it to clients, and then basically they can buy into that, which is
and then
great.
iterate on that.
Yeah, spot on, yeah. And you'll find it's called completely wrong by the end. It all changes anyway, but you know, but at least you're basing it on something to go forward, and that is important. To have a plan. What's the old saying? Having a bad plan executed today is better than a perfect plan executed tomorrow. So it's actually at least trying to turn around and put something in place. That's really contradictory to what I'm saying, Dave.
That word.
Yeah, that is. That's a sound thing. I've got some great analogies, mate. I usually kind of put them together in some weeks.
He's got an entire presentation that's just
yeah.
analogies.
Well,
It's
next year, look forward to it.
Get ready for that.
You've heard most of them, so
Yeah. So,
I was going to say, theory is one of the most important things we look for, to be honest, because the games industry moves fast, and software is always going to change. So one of the key skills you can have is the ability to learn by yourself. Because I got taught UT3 when I was here, and then now nobody uses that, and some of it's relevant, but still new software comes out and you have to use it. So having a good understanding of theory is kind of like the key base behind all of that.
because that doesn't change really, does it? Then?
But also it's one of those things where the two major advantages we have to just really theory crafting something out is it's an easy way to get everybody understanding the design. When you've come up with this design and you've got to pitch it to an engineer who needs to make it and to other people who need to understand it and maybe design smaller sections of it, having a good base theory there just makes everyone's life easier, because you can go, when they go, how did this work? You go, it's all in this document here, please read it and understand it. And they can just read that through rather than having discussions after work's been done. But that leads into the second point, which is, especially for small studios, it's the cheapest way to prove if something's actually fun or not. If you can theory craft it through, you're not going to spend time prototyping it, making it, to play it, to find out it's shit, because you've already done the work beforehand by just theory crafting it out.
Yep.
And that's really key, because you can spend a lot of time prototyping things, even with the worst code in the world. It's still a lot of time, and then suddenly you've spent 2 weeks making a prototype that you could have maybe theory crafted in 2 days to find out the holes and focused your design much more.
Think about it as well, if you've got people in the room again who want to kind of make their own indie team or do something going forwards, like pitch and try and actually make something themselves, what that means is there's nothing wrong with, before you spend a penny, right, sitting down and actually sitting in a lounge, sitting in your bedroom together, like figuring out stuff, right, writing it up, making sure you really believe in your design idea prior to then thinking, right, okay, I'm going to try and go for funding now, or try and actually make something of it. Because basically, again, you're spending something when you do it. It's the cheapest way you can do that in the first place. The least risk that you add to the project and to the team, the better. Because all of you are spending your time and life, doing this. So if it's 6 months of your life and you're doing it just because you'll hope that it's going to come together in some which way, shape or form, I'd say it's better to plan it properly. You can apply this to most parts of your life. Yeah. It's just important to get it right if you're going to do it on your own.
So have you ever played a game that's then inspired you to create something in a game that you're working on?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Not lifted it directly. I mean,
no, yeah, but like,
you can tell us if you have.
It's not just games, right? It's all
the time.
Yeah, it's all forms of media. It's all like it's you watch a spooky film, right, or a spooker, and you're like, oh yeah, cool. I'm gonna go and put that in a Hello Kitty game, right, and that'll be interesting, right? But like, you don't like taking things from other people's games and putting them in the thing that you're working on. If you're making a first-person shooter and you decide to put a real-time strategy element into it, you end up with Brutal Legend, right? Does that make sense? But what they did was they marketed that game as a third-person action game, and it was actually a strategy game, right? Like as time went on, and that's like a perfect example of a game that got overscoped based on it. Somebody going, wouldn't it be great if we took this idea and slammed them together and didn't think about it fully? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're doing it, you have to think. You have to have a fundamental reason why you're going to put it in and why it's there. And it's okay. Like that goes for anything. For like a small Easter egg, like putting a red balloon in your game as an IT reference. For example, it goes from anything from that to being like, we're going to mash these two genres together. You've got to really think about it, and you've got to think about why you're doing it. I'd never put anything in one of the games that we do contract work are our own games that wasn't inherently on the same core pillar group as the game. Does that make sense?
I totally agree with that, mate, and it'd be quite interesting you say from a design perspective, but a lot of the time you'll tend to find that especially when you're thinking about your own projects and actually what you want to present and show someone, if your vision's too grand and you don't achieve it, it means that it's worthless. It's like you waste all of that time and effort on something. So one of the things I've always said is if you're like a developer, if someone comes to me with a perfect Mario clone, I'm like, yeah, because I know Mario's sold. Yeah. So therefore it's not rocket science. You've got to remember games and industry marry together. Yeah. If you just do games, you're doing it for fun, you just want to do it for fun, keep doing it for fun. But the flip side to it is you've got to remember there's a business side of it as well, and that's the point when someone kind of employs you or you're trying to work together with someone, you've got to see what's going to sell or what you anticipate you can do. So proving that you can do something early on is brilliant. Innovating just that little bit is how the industry gets to those cool ideas.
That's how it grows.
That are there, yeah. Very rarely will you come up with something that's like massively innovative and it's actually going to be fun, because you've got an incredible wealth of awesome people out there already around the world that are all taking tiny steps, and where you think it's a massive leap because you've come up with this really unique idea, if it is successful, it's probably because someone else somewhere in this amazing world of ours has kind of iterated towards that already. Yeah, you'll just tend to find great minds think alike. That's why a lot of games come out very similarly at the same time. It's not a coincidence in the sense that, other than the fact that prior to that, circumstances led up to something that seemed to forge the same type of games.
Same ideas, different locations.
That's it,
So,
yeah.
Tom, how's it going putting all the World of Warcraft mechanics into John's games?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying my hardest because Warcraft is obviously the best.
The best game ever, yeah.
But no, it can be a dangerous hole to go down in terms of games take obviously a really long time to make, and games keep coming out and you go, oh, that's really cool, we should do that. Oh, that's really cool, we should do that. Oh, that's really cool, we should do that. And then you never finish anything because you're constantly adding more to the same mechanic. So it's kind of learning, when is the thing done? And then like, no, we've touched it. I know there's a better version out right now. So maybe when we've done other stuff, we'll come back and we'll add on top of it. Or we'll go back and feel like, okay, we'll boil it down. There's a new feature in game. Like the one for me that's ruining me right now is at the Outer Worlds. There's so much good stuff in the Outer Worlds that I'm a fan of, even though it's not doing any massive iteration on that genre. It's just doing it really well, and I want to take some of those elements and put them in Eanstar. But it's figuring out
all the loot boxes.
Maybe, but then it's like
Money.
it's kind of figuring out, okay, exactly why is this better, and boiling it down to, is it because it makes the game easier? It makes me feel this. Is it the actual mechanic? And trying to see if I can do that some other way. But it's most important is kind of stay focused and understand what we can take going forward rather than what can I add right now. Because otherwise, we've definitely done it on Eanstar where we've gone, oh, this would be really cool, let's add it. And then we've done the same system like 4 times in a row now, because each year a new game comes out that does it better, and we go, oh, we need to do this now. This is the cool thing to do.
We've got the opposite now, which is good. But like it naturally happens in a cycle of like the way that you end up developing. Once you've been through like something that takes a longer time, and you get it from start to finish, it's like understanding that you will swell an idea, and then you'll just throw out a load of stuff, and you get to a point. If you naturally, it's like the team naturally goes, no, you never do that, because they've been working on the game long enough to understand what the game's about, and that goes back to the kind of do what's right for the core game. So again, Mario, the idea of turning around and having like a wingsuit in Mario, the jump mechanic is so much more nuanced than most people ever imagine. Yeah. It's geniusly implemented, like learn, study something like that, learn how the fact that it feels like it's physical movement, you know, it's physicalized, and then think about things like, okay, well, I'm going to put a wingsuit in it or something similar that just adds that little bit extra flavour, and you've got something that really turns around and is attractive to play.
So Bruce, you're an artist at heart?
Yeah.
Or what's your advice to artists out there? Like, obviously, these designers have got these great ideas of all these good mechanics. These artists.
How many of you are artists? Oh, yes. Cool, because I was at Teesside Uni Talk the other day, and about 4 people put their hand up, and I was like, what is going on?
We have the better artists.
Yeah, I think you do, you know.
Yeah.
So
to Gradex. Employ them.
I will.
Fire
Yeah.
all those people. They're rubbish.
We don't. We've only got 3 artists, 2 artists.
Oh, you need more.
Yeah, we do actually. We're actually hiring.
There you go. Hiring. Send Bruce CV.
It's in my talk after this. So yeah, artists in particular, you're the people that make the game look good. You're not the people that make the game function or design well. But there is a weird crossover point, right, where a designer will be like, I want this thing to be in the game, and you're like, okay, I'll go make it. And then you'll come back to them, and the thing you've made is ace, but not exactly what they want, and they'll be like, oh, it's not really fundamentally what we want. And that genuinely depends on the type of designer, right? Because you get some designers that are like, no, I wanted it this way, and it has to be this way. Like a good example of that in real world, I guess, is Hideo Kojima. He's very like, this is like intensely, this is the vision and this is what we're doing. Whereas you get some designers that are a bit looser. And
Are you loose, Tom?
Yeah, Tom, are you loose? Are you a loose designer?
I think in general, it's how I like to run kind of as a lead is give people room to breathe, especially when it's with art stuff. In a way, I play a lot of mechanical games. I turn the settings down to low on Overwatch because I want the FPS. So when it comes to art stuff, I give it to the artists and be like, it should be like this, but kind of run with it. And as long as it sticks to, it's consistent with the rest of the game that we're looking for, and it
pillars,
fits.
it's like fitting
And
pillars.
consistent
It's
to the
fine.
core.
And I let them kind of have some ownership over that element. And if they tell me it's good, and I'm like, yeah, it looks good. It's not exactly what I imagined, but it fits with the rest of the game. It looks boss. Let's just put it in. Because it's good to give people ownership of those things.
How much of a percentage do you think then, Tom, with stuff like that actually, that you would say, if your initial vision is 100% of what you're thinking, what would you say is acceptable in the back of your mind, if you know what I mean, with working with other people as a lead as well? Because it's interesting to talk about that. Do you know what I mean? It's like the end result.
It's 20% for me.
Yeah.
If I've got like a 100% vision of what it is, if it's 20% of what the vision was, of what we're making, I'm down.
But the rest of the responsibility is like, as a lead, is to turn around and actually still galvanise the team to achieve the best they can do, even though your original vision is only 20%.
It's more like if it's like the core feel of a game, or what the thing that I really care about is the thing that I want to kind of, in a way, be my little baby.
Is the precious part.
Or it's like sometimes that's a certain mechanic. Sometimes that's for an Ian style. For me, it's the world. I care the most about making an interesting world full of things to do. And the mechanics in that are a big part of that game, obviously. They're the thing that actually makes it fun. And as long as they're consistent and helping support that feeling of what I think the player should be experiencing in that world, I'm kind of free to give people like rein on those mechanics and be like, build something good, design me something good, and I'll give that to another designer. If they come back with something, I go, I don't really like this mechanic, but we played it and everyone seems to like it. I don't personally like it, but I like it. Hasn't affected the world in any way, which is the thing I care about the most. We'll put it in the game because people find it fun, and games at the end of the day are subjective. People find different things fun. And it's learning about, I like my MMOs, so I'm gonna always lean towards that side of.
So we've got about a minute left. Go on, sell the games to all these people who can buy it and give you money. Why should they buy Agent Star, John?
Oh mate, it's Because you know what, actually, it shows a lot of learning.
Yeah.
Actually, especially for all of you guys. I've always said before, the stuff that we've done, it's more of a matter of being able to kind of understand what we do from it. So for us, Eden Star doesn't have to be a commercial success. It's a critical thing that we're looking to do. So we've got a later release, probably early next year, that's going to really be the vision that we've been working for, because it's been behind closed doors for about 1.5 years. So yeah, give it a go or have a play and you'll see it. But I like your game though, mate. The one you've been making.
Mate.
You've got like the next half an hour to talk.
Yeah, my talk, because John was doing this talk, and my talk was originally going to be about this path. But instead I was like, it's rare that students get to actually see what a studio's like. So what I've got is a load of stuff of how Radforge runs as a studio. So if you're interested in that, that's what that talk's about. And then at the end there's we got jobs.
Yeah. Cool. So go and apply for these guys. Thanks so much. We're going to come to an end. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.